Hello, everyone. Unexpected live chat for tonight. Figured I'd just come on. Used to do this a lot more regularly, but seems like I can always find an excuse not to do it. So I figured I'd do it. First 30 seconds, I've got no viewers, which is pretty much par for the course with me. But there's one. I got somebody. Hopefully, I'll be able to see all the comments here. I'm never sure about the rapidly evolving technology with these things. Probably doing it Saturday night was not a very good idea, but then again, you know, what are you going to do? Hmm. Yeah, close a few programs out here. This is eating up a lot of my memory. Mendicant's Chalice has a question. I got a question off the bat. What's the name of the good Mexican restaurant at Living Dead Weekend? Well, there's a couple in the area, but the one that I've been going to for almost 30 years now is called El Campesino. It's just up the highway from the mall at the in the Jonnet Plaza, along with I think it was a Disco Round or one of those UCD movie places. There was a Big Lots in there, but I think that's gone now. But it's at the very end of that shopping center. And a little word of advice: if you're trying to get into that shopping center, don't make the turn at the light, because trying to turn up into it is just awkward as hell. Just turn in off the highway. Don't before the light. Don't do that. I don't know why I'm bothering to tell you that, but El Campesino has a couple locations in Pittsburgh. There's one off the McKnight Road exit that I went to a couple times, but I prefer the one out in Monroeville. But I've been going there. It opened sometime in the early 2000s, maybe even before. It might have even been actually now I think about the late 90s. Um, but it used to be in that shopping center in a much smaller space, and then they moved down to the end. I think there was a steakhouse there for a brief period, and then it closed, and El Campesino took over. But yeah, that's where I normally go. But there's a couple places up the road. There's one in the parking lot of the mall, the name of which escapes me at the moment, which is actually pretty good, also. And then there's one down the road a bit that's also quite good. But El Campesino is usually where I go. I almost always go there. Hey, slutty. Okay, well, what is the status of cheerleader camp? It is apparently there's a lot of next red shirt pictures releases, but no, that is owned, I believe, by someone. The director, one of the producers, passed away, and it's now owned by someone in the family, and they don't want to talk about it, apparently, or something to that degree. We did it at Anchor Bay back in the day, um, but I honestly don't know what the status of that one is. Yeah, it would be a good one to bring back out because it hasn't been re-released since that Anchor Bay DVD. I remember when we managed to acquire that one. I think it did pretty well for us, actually, as I recall. Got 9 people. 9 people. I gotta do a better job of promoting myself on these things because I usually don't get a lot of initial viewers, though a lot of people will watch it later, which is nice. You have all that trick or treat money. Okay, people seem to really think I made a shit ton of money off of trick or treat. I mean, it did well. Don't get me wrong, and continues to do well. But um, I still live in the same house I lived in before. I'm driving a car I lease. I'm not swimming in cash. You don't. People who jump into the home video distribution business um, now are hopefully doing it for the right reasons, because if they think it's a pathway to a quick buck or a lot of money on a regular basis, ooh, not so much. But hey, it's a living. So I'm taking whatever questions anybody has that I can answer anyway. Because figured I'd just come on here and talk a little bit. Thank you very much for buying Hunter's Blood. I appreciate that. That was a labor of love for sure. Um, and I know that there have been some people kind of blanching a little bit on the price, and I understand that. I get it. I really do. It's not a film with a built-in audience. It's not like a Trick or Treat or what will be a Fright Night 2 or a Prom Night 2 or something like that. And there are going to be some people who are not going to want to pay that much for a film that they may not even know that much about or may not appeal to them as much as some of those other movies. I get that. I do. And I just appreciate people who have given it a shot and given it a chance and hopefully realize that it was a nice package, that it's worth the money. But that's up to the person. But I get people who are saying, hey, it's just too much for a movie that I don't really know that much about. And the only issue I take is with people who are out there going, well, just go watch it on YouTube, because the YouTube versions are rips and they're actually illegal. And I don't quite appreciate that. That's basically telling people, hey, go profit up, because we actually Sentence Films, we own that movie. We actually bought the film, so it's but look, I get it. I also get it too. What's up with Rocktober Blood? That's part of the Bird and Beverly Sebastian catalog, which I think was it TerraVision was doing, because they're doing Gator Bait. So I think that's one of the ones they're doing. I think it's TerraVision. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But and I think the negative was lost for that movie. So that's the problem with that. Am I going to make it out to any cons? Yeah, I'm going to actually, in 2 weeks, I'll be at the Buffalo Horror Garage. I'll be a guest there. And then I'm going to be at the Living Dead weekend in June, along with a lot of other people. So I'll be at those two shows. And I'm sure something will come up in the summer. There's actually a show coming here, the Detroit Horror Con, which is going to be up in Waterford, I think in August or somewhere in there. So I'll be there for that, because that's very close to my house, and my mother lives very close to that area. So it'll be an excuse to go up there and have lunch with her and then go see the horror show. So there you go. Any upcoming releases that we should watch out for in the next few months? Your extras are always a lot of fun. Thank you very much, Ian. Yeah, there's a big one, the Jimmy Sangster Hammer set that's coming out. I did a lot of work on that. I edited a lot of featurettes for Lust for a Vampire, and one big one for, I think it's on the Horror Frankenstein, or it's just in that set. I don't know. Maybe it's on the separate disc, which is a career retrospective on Ralph Bates, the actor Ralph Bates. That was a major undertaking. That's a long piece, and I'm very proud of it at the end of the day. But there's that. So there's several things I did for that. David Gregory is a good friend. I've known him for going on almost well over 25 years now, and so I did some work on him for that. And then I've got Angel of Heat on the Red Shirt Home Video label coming up. Actually, I can show you the cover for that, because that's actually finished. That will not be a $75 box set, by the way. That we're not doing that. But this is what it's going to be. It's a nice double-sided O card with great artwork by Justin Osborne, who did a just perfect job. A little spot gloss on the title there, but that's going to be the cover for Angel of Heat. We're not going to be printing a lot of these O cards. I have the Hearts of Darkness Blu-ray in there just as this here, but this is the O card for it, and all the special features and everything. But this is actually maybe my favorite O card of anything that I've done or worked on in a long time. I really love this one. So, Angel of Heat. Look for an announcement on that one very shortly, actually. So that one's in the works. Did I work on Modern Problems or the pirate movie at Anchor Bay? No, I did not. Those happened right as I was leaving the company. We got a big deal with Fox, and that those were not titles that I. Again, when I was at Anchor Bay, I didn't really do a lot of the video stuff at all because that was handled by people out in LA. So I wasn't really involved with that, but I didn't really do anything for either one of those in terms of like liner notes or any additional research or anything. Let's see here. I don't know, but I know that movie. I know that Nightmare on 13th Floor. I want to say Paramount maybe owns that. I don't remember exactly who does. But I'm sure somebody at some point would want to do that. That may be one. Maybe one. I can't speak for certain, but that may be one that was shot on film and edited on video. So they'd have to go back and reconstruct the movie, and that's something of an undertaking. I've done that several times, but it takes a lot of time to get that, and you have to go back and make sure you have all the footage, because sometimes if it's an A/B roll thing, you can like I did on Party Girl, the Parker Posey movie. That way you don't have to sift through every single take they did. But there have been films where I've had every single bit of footage that was shot on these movies, and you have to find the exact take that they used and match it up. It's like a detective puzzle thing, and it's a lot of fun, but it's time consuming. So, but I don't know about Nightmare on A lot of people have talked about that one. Yes, we have our Fright Night 2 Spooky Picture Show is sponsoring a wonderful screening of the new Fright Night 2 Master in Salem, Massachusetts at the Salem Theater to benefit a good friend, Eric Amash, who's been battling cancer, and we just want to help him and the family as much as possible. And William Ragsdale and Julie Carmen are going to be there. William was kind enough to offer to come out, and then he mentioned it. Julie and Julie's coming in too, so that's really incredible. And apparently, this screening has sold out now, which is just awesome. But they're going to be raffle prizes, and there's going to be, custom posters that Chris McGibbon, my co-host on the podcast, is going to do, and he'll be there, and several other. I mean, it's going to be a nice event. It's going to be a really nice event. So I'm very, very grateful to Gibbs for putting, having the impetus to put that whole thing together. I would love to take credit for the organization and the all the hard work in that event, but that was really all Gibbs. So he's really gone to town on that, and I'm very, very happy to see that will be benefiting Eric, who's been a good friend for a long period of time, and we really feel for what he's going through right now. Doing good, bro. Doing good. Yeah, I actually had that CED of Angel of Heat at one point. I don't anymore, but it was a long, long time ago. I used to collect those for a brief period because I just thought they were cool. They were really nice. They're great for hanging on walls and getting autographs. As a format, it was a terrible format. But I do have the laser disc of Angel of Heat still, though. So go figure. Well, thank you very much. And I'm glad you got Hunter's Blood. Thank you very much. Why so low? Scalpers love low stock. I must have missed the first part of that question. What's going on with Stepfather 3? Not much of anything as far as I know. I would love to do that one. I don't have no detail here, but what amount of money will they put in a Blu-ray release like Dentist or Wishmaster? Since those were done by Lionsgate, I really can't speak to what costs were on their end. I mean, I had a decent budget to work with in terms of extras, but these were not films given 4K remasters at the time. Although I think Wishmaster may have gotten a 4K remaster recently. I think maybe I'm not 100%, but those were moderately budget. Lionsgate doesn't, they've been a really good paying client, to be brutally just out there. They're one of the few major studios that I continue to have an ongoing relationship with. It's been almost 20 years now since I did Monster Squad for them, and they've always treated me really, really well. So I hope for that to continue for as long as they are willing to let it continue. Yes, go watch Howling 7 on Tubi or anywhere. It is a masterpiece. Do I have no? I have no information on Twilight of the Dead. I'm not involved with that project, so I can't really say. Um, but I mean, I know a little bit about it. I did read an early version of the script, but who knows how what's that was that was quite a few years ago. So I don't know what the condition of that is now, or if it's changed or not. But yeah, I saw the announcement like everybody else, so I wish them well. Certainly wish them well. What's my favorite Leprechaun movie? Mine is actually that's my answer too. Leprechaun 3. I really like and I actually like 4 a lot too. But it doesn't get quite as much love as 3. But 3 was great. 3 was the first time where I think they felt like, okay, we're trying. I think maybe we're taking ourselves a little too seriously. Let's just really go all full camp on this, and I think that was a good call. But and I'm a big Brian Trenchard Smith fan, and he knows how to make a good fun movie. Would Soul Man ever get a new release? In this environment? I don't know. I would like to say yes because I think the movie's pretty harmless, and the movie is aware of the conundrum at the heart of it. So it's not like it's pretending like there's nothing wrong with what that movie is about, but it's yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That doesn't seem to be one that a lot of companies are rushing to license to bring back out. Yeah, that's a very good question. I don't know. Oh, Levy Isaacs. So I did yeah, Levy is a great guy. I've worked with Levy several times now because he filmed so many different movies over the years, and seems like every year I get hired on a movie that he worked on. But Levy's been great with me over there. I think the first time I did anything with him was on Sundown when we did the commentary with him and Anthony Hickox for Sundown, and I've worked with him I think about 6 or 7 times since then. But he's a great guy. He's a really great guy. Let's see. If I could send one more legacy horror franchise to space, that's a good question. Which would it be? I would put Leatherface in space because I cannot imagine how the hell that would happen. With a lot of the other ones, I could almost see, even though it's almost always ridiculous, I could see kind of how Chucky might make it into space. I can kind of see how, you know, Michael Myers would end up in space. I can almost see it, but I cannot for the life of me figure out how Leatherface would ever fucking get into space. So I would like to get Leatherface into space just to see how someone justifies that ever happening. And also, does a chainsaw run in space? I don't know. See if I missed any questions here. Thank you. Let's see. Hunter's Blood was needed. Lost film. I happen to agree with. Oh, hey, yes, with Born to be Rad. I agree with Garrett very, very much. What was George Romero like? He was exactly the type of person you'd hoped he'd be. Very laid back, very funny, very self-deprecating, very just very. I sat at his convention tables a lot over the years, and I would watch him interact with people, and he would put people at ease so quickly. I mean, it would just be, some people would come up and be very nervous to meet him, and then within a few seconds, they would just be like, it was like talking with an old friend. He had a really good rapport with people. He made you feel like he was focusing on you, even if it was only 30 seconds that you had with him at the table. Um, but yeah, a very important figure in my life for a lot of reasons, and a really good friend. Really good friend. Did I work on the Peter Sellers box at Anchor Bay? I was there. I was there during the time that we did that box, but I didn't do anything specifically for that. No, but uh, but I was definitely there when we did that box, the Alec Guinness box. All those were a part of the Studio Canal catalog that we had the rights to at the time. So. That is a good question about Nightmare on Elm Street. I would think that's a Warner Brothers question. I don't know. I got mine. I got the nice steel tin set for that. I still haven't watched any of them though. But I wish they had done commentaries for the ones that don't have commentary tracks on them. That's my only regret with that. But I'm sure there were reasons. I don't want to criticize anybody. Even though I've never worked for Warner Brothers, I probably never will. But it would have been nice to have at least gotten some commentary tracks for that. Vestron is putting out a lot of releases lately. They have been doing more. Have I been involved on every recent release? No. There was some reshuffling and some reorganization over there, and the way they handle Vestron is a little different now since they primarily go through their own Lionsgate Limited website. It's part of that program. So they have assigned some other titles to some other people, which I understand completely. Quite frankly, I couldn't tackle every one of them anyway. It would just be too much work for me. But like the Stoned Age, I didn't work on that one. Although I did suggest that title at one point. But I am working on 2 more of them for them right now, which I'll be finishing up over the summer. One is not horror. The other is horror. Yes, it is horror, but it's hard to explain why. But yes, and it's certainly something that will appeal to the crowd that collects those things. When are Lucas and Spielberg going to do a film? Me and Lucas and Spielberg going to do a film together? Oh, if I could just make that call, but sadly, no. That's I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But one never knows, But thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. No, you haven't asked too much at all. If you ask too much, I'll say, stop asking me so many questions, and then I'll kick you out of the chat. But I'm never going to do that because I'm a nice guy, contrary to what you may have heard. Hello from Australia, and hello from Southfield, Michigan. I've never played the Call of Duty. I don't play Call of Duty, so I know nothing about it. And I've never played the Call of the Dead or any of that. I don't know anything about that. So unfortunately, I would not be the person to ask about that. Let's see. Well, I hope you come across it in the wild soon, Jason. Thank you very much. The next Red Shirt release will be, as I mentioned earlier, Angel of Heat. That will be the next one for sure, because it's pretty much, as you see, very close to being ready to go. I think they're replicating the discs next week, and then once the packaging is in, we'll be off and running with that one. And that one will be just like, as you see here, a very nice slipcover for a single or a UHD Blu-ray combo. So we're not doing a hard box and a multi-page booklet and posters and lobby card reproductions for that. Although we are doing actually inside the case there will be a double-sided Marilyn Chambers pinup poster, which I felt was very appropriate. And we had 2 perfect publicity shots from that movie to make that happen. So, but there'll be more details on that actually probably very, very soon. When am I announcing the 1978 Dawn of the Dead 4K for US? As soon as I get the rights to it, which will be just 2 or 3 weeks now from never. I doubt. I would be shocked if that ever happened with me. Anyway, not that I wouldn't want that. Is there any chance of the recordings you have with George being released to the public? I am speaking with a filmmaker right now who has some ideas about what to do with that stuff. It's still in the very, very early stages, but there is a possibility of some of that coming to light. Because I do want people to listen to it, and I know George eventually wanted people to listen to it too. We just didn't know what the form of it was going to be when we recorded it, but it's been, gosh, next year will be 10 years since he died. Wow, that's fast. Wow. So we're 9 years out from his death, so I would like to see something happen with that myself, because it was a really special experience for me. It was just something, was not anticipating that. The Werewolf TV show, yeah, it was very close. In fact, I did commentaries and interviews for that, which are sitting finished on a hard drive on behind me. The reason that was canceled, from what I was told, was because of music clearance rights in a couple of episodes. And they didn't have the separated audio tracks or something to get the music out of there. And the licensing of the songs was going to be too prohibitive. And so that was canceled. However, another downer fact was that all they had were the old masters. Again, these were shot on film, edited on video. So they only had the old masters from 40 years ago or whatever. And they didn't look all that great. And because, most of Werewolf takes place at night. And that's not conducive to some old U-matic or Betacam tapes that have been floating around for 40 years. The black levels are not going to be great, and the detail won't be either. So I would love to see someone go in and reconstruct all those episodes and do them up right for the 4K world, or the HD world. But that's what happened with that. But if that ever does happen, I've got stuff sitting here. Yeah, you know what? Anchor Bay did a lot of non-genre stuff, not a lot of non-movie stuff. I mean, they were a huge children and fitness company. In fact, those lines helped keep us in business when some of the horror stuff tanked, because not everything that we did in the cult film world was a huge seller. It was kind of a false belief that everything we put out there just sold hundreds of thousands of copies, and that was not the case. But the stuff that did sell sold very well and made up for some of the stuff that didn't. But yeah, no, Thomas the Tank Engine was a huge part of the company, and the Crunch fitness lines and the 10-minute workouts. We had one of the most successful fitness brands of any video company out there. We had really talented people working in that company, and it was such a diversified company in terms of the types of product that we offered. So there were people who grew up who saw the little boat on the spine and thought of Halloween, Dawn of the Dead, Evil Dead, Army of Darkness. But then there's a whole another generation of people who saw that boat on the spine and think of Thomas and Percy and the Isle of Sodor and all that. So it's like, it's interesting. But yeah, we don't quite get the attention here in terms of what they did in other genres and in other categories of entertainment, because we covered the spread. We really did. I do need to promote my channel more, but I'm not on it enough to really do much of anything, and I don't have time to promote anything. What I would really need is someone to hire somebody to do that for me, because I'm never going to be the person to promote my own stuff. It's just not something I know. And also, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how any of that shit works, or where you would go to, what sites or what social media platforms are the right one. I don't know. I know I'm savvy enough to use the internet and to understand the technology, but I'm not savvy enough or experienced enough or ambitious enough to know how to manipulate it to my own benefit. So that's really about where I am with that. But I do agree with you in principle on that anyway. Yes, we don't know. Yeah. No, I've never met Dario Argento. I've come close a couple of times, but I've never met him. No, I wish. It would have been great. But he came, I think he did a couple of conventions over here, but I wasn't anywhere near them at the time, or something came up. But I've never met Dario. I would love to. I don't know what the hell I'd say to him, but I would. Yeah, he's one of the major horror figures I've never had a chance to meet. Steve Barton's going to get a boat on his spine as a tramp stamp. You know, if anybody else had said that, I would have been like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But I know what's wrong with you, so score. Are there any Romero interviews that you have yet to release and or incorporate into releases? Technically no. Although the interview I did with George in 2015 for Creepshow 2 will be part of the documentary on Creepshow 2 that we'll be releasing next year, which was what it was originally shot for. But then the documentary didn't look like it was going to happen for a while, so I cut it into a smaller piece that was on the Arrow and the 88 Films sets. But I'm gonna use still that original footage and cut it into the documentary. So there actually will be some stuff you've not seen from that interview that will be in the documentary. Let's see. Any more live auctions coming? Not anytime soon. I have no stuff. I mean, I've got stuff, but not stuff I want to sell. Yeah, Steve, this was a weird thing. It was very, very last minute, and there was this concept that didn't get exploited very much on Blu-ray called BD Live, where you would put stuff online, you put the Blu-ray in, and then the Blu-ray player would connect to the BD Live site for that movie, and you could update and add new stuff. It never took off. And the commentary that George and Steve Barton did for Survival of the Dead was a BD Live extra. So I think maybe 3 people heard it, which was a real disappointment. However, if that movie ever gets re-released anywhere, I will make sure that that commentary is on there as a permanent feature. Because I've still got it. I've still got all the files for Survival of the Dead here. Yes, there will be. It's called Second Helpings, the making of Creepshow 2, because the first one's just desserts. Second one is Second Helpings. And it will be available. It was originally going to be at the end of this year, but way too much other stuff on the plate right now. And also next year is the 40th anniversary. So it makes more sense to do it next year. But yes, there will be. It's a sequel to Just Desserts, covering the sequel to Creepshow. And I'm still filming some interviews for it, though I finally have less to shoot than I already have now, which is good. Yeah, it was one of the many gimmicks in the home video industry which did not connect ultimately. I will not be doing a third one because that would be covering Creepshow 3. That's not a documentary I have any particular interest in doing. No shade to Creepshow 3, but my level of interest in the Creepshow film series pretty much ends with Creepshow 2, to be honest with you. Yeah, we don't speak of that. Well, we speak of it just in hushed tones and passing in the night. Just, was there a Creepshow 3? Yes, there was. Just, we don't talk about that. Rockula, yes, I know about your love for Rockula. Rave dancing to a different beat. Shout didn't I think Shout did Rockula. Someone did Rockula. Um but Rockula I think is owned by MGM, I think. So I think that would be up to them to decide who gets that. And Rave dancing to a different beat. I've never even I got to be honest with you. I've not heard of that. I feel bad because I usually have heard of everything. I've not seen everything, but I've at least heard of everything. But what's called Rave dancing to a different beat? What the hell is that? Now I gotta look this up. Adolfo Quinones. Wait a minute. Adolfo Quinones. Shabadoo? Well, now I'm definitely intrigued. I didn't know Shabadoo. Wow. Yeah, I think I need to. Okay. This is like one of those that brief period where there was the lambada and salsa movies. And now apparently there was a rave movie. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who the ideal. I don't know. Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park is actually owned by Warner Brothers because it's a Hanna-Barbera production, of all things. And then Kiss is also involved to some degree because of the music. But it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing with Kiss. Interesting. Gleaming the Cube. Oh my god. That's part of a film catalog that's kind of shuffled around a bit. I think that's now at a studio. Um, and it was called something else when it was on TV. I only discovered that recently. Gleaming the Cube was actually retitled some generic fucking thing when it played on TV because believe it or not, that title confused a lot of people. In fact, Gleaming the Cube was a skating term, but as I heard from somebody at one point, it's not really a skating term that anyone ever used. It was just sort of like a bullshit thing that they came up with or something to that degree. But but no, it got it got released to TV as something really stupid, just something like really. I don't remember what the name of the renaming of it was, but it was really generic. It was really generic. Because I was watching, I remember the commercial was like, "What movie is that? It looks like Gleaming the Cube, but that's not." Oh, it is Gleaming the Cube. Yeah. Yeah, it's not exactly. It's a little fiction. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of fiction in Survival of the Dead. There's a lot of fiction in all those movies, but yeah. The Mysterious Two. Now, that's the Gary Sherman one, isn't it? Yeah. I remember that was a USA video release, if I remember correctly. I remember renting it because it wasn't it a TV movie? I think it was a TV movie. Um, but yeah, I don't know. That's a good question because I know Gary. I would love to do it, but that might have been a network thing. So I don't know. I'd have to ask about that one. That's a good question, actually. Yeah, I don't know. When it comes to Shout Factory, I don't know. I haven't worked for Shout in several years, so I really don't know what they're up to or what their plans are on pretty much anything these days. Oh, Fremantle? Oh, it could be maybe Fremantle because Fremantle owns a lot of stuff. Yeah, I don't know why that one hasn't been reissued. I have to believe Marvel has a hand in that somehow, although I don't think so because they don't really have control over a lot of those Marvel movies that existed before they formed Marvel Studios. But and certainly they shouldn't be embarrassed by that. It's there's Marvel movies that have been made in the last 20 years are a lot worse than fucking Punisher. So I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know why that one hasn't come back out. You would think it would have been by now. A Brother's Justice. Yes, that's that sounds like a Lifetime movie. Who the hell wants to watch A Brother's Justice? I mean, I don't know what most people wouldn't want to watch Gleaming the Cube, but there's certainly one, a brother's justice on Lifetime. I used to live in Rochester Hills. I had an apartment up in Rochester Hills for almost a year, and then I got a house in Berkeley. But I lived up in Rochester Hills for the back half of, or most of 2004. I lived in Rochester Hills. Liked it up there. It's a nice place. There's a lot more stuff up that way now than there was back when I lived there. But no, I liked it there. It was nice. I don't know you well enough for you to come over here to have dinner with me, but we can meet somewhere for dinner. That'd be fine with me. But then once we get to know each other, maybe we'll see. I have to keep the walls up, you know. A special, yeah. The issue with that is so many of the films are owned by different people. It's the same with um any filmmaker's work, unless they had like the easiest one to do a box set of is Clint Eastwood because he did so much work for just Warner Brothers in his, you know, for the majority of his career. Although he did a lot, he did do some for Universal and one or two, I think, for Sony. He did one for Sony in The Line of Fire, but he was an actor in that. But as a director, almost everything he did was for Warner Brothers, certainly in starting in the 1980s. Um, but you know, David Lynch's stuff is all over the place, and that would be a logistical challenge. Yeah. There's a lot of TV movies that haven't come out that I would love to see. But the problem with a lot of TV movies is, again, especially in the ones in the 80s and the 90s, they were shot on film, edited on video. So there's that problem. And then they didn't clear a lot of the music for home video because they never, especially a lot of the TV movies that were made in the 70s, they never thought of having another venue to exploit these films in besides television back then. So they would clear music for broadcast, but they wouldn't clear it for any other format. And as a result, that's hindering several of them. It happened to major motion pictures as well, but especially with TV movies where they had a much more limited budget. Oh, I remember Midnight. I remember the cover for that one. I don't know who owns that one. I don't remember. Was that Magnum brought that out? Was that who had the tape on that? I can't remember who. But I remember that. I remember the cover. It was a nice cover. It was really, really attractive cover. I think Eraserhead didn't Criterion do Eraserhead? Don't they have Eraserhead? I think they have it now. If anyone could pull off doing a box set of Lynch's films, it would be Criterion. I would think that would be a no-brainer, I think, for them. Did you ever go to Boblo Island? I would have to say I have not been to Boblo Island. It sounds familiar, but I honestly don't know where that is. Hmm. Oh, that's okay. Oh, it was in Detroit. No, that okay. That's why I've heard of it. No, I have not. Did not go to Boblo Island. Boblo Island. Oh, let's see here. What am I doing here? There is something I am going to show and discuss here tonight. Um, and it's regarding Fright Night 2. Uh, you know, I announced the cover arts quite a few months ago, and I'm very proud of the covers that were done. And you know, I tend not to go on forums or get, not that I don't want to hear feedback or hear what people have to say, but sometimes, and I learned this back at Anchor Bay, people can get so nitpicky about things and get so hung up on their own personal preferences to the exclusion of pretty much anything else. So you have to kind of realize, you know, someone may proclaim loud and hard about something that they hate, but it's really just that one person. Or it's also coming from a place of this is based so much on their own personal preference that you shouldn't view it as a referendum on the quality of what you're doing. And if you spend too much time trying to please people who post things on the internet, A, that's all you'll have time for, and B, you will never accomplish that goal anyway. That is impossible. That is just never gonna happen. And I learned that at Anchor Bay a long, long time ago. You just cannot please everybody. You just can't. However, I don't like to shortchange, constructive feedback. Even though I like to think that I get it right every single time, I don't. And sometimes I have to admit, you know what, maybe that's not a bad idea. Or if you hear enough of it from enough people, you go, okay, maybe there's something to it. And at the end of the day, most of the time I stick by my guns and go, no, this is what I want. This is what I'm good with. However, I did notice a couple things in regards to the Fright Night 2 artworks that I found interesting. Um, and I wanted to, so I started thinking about it and I decided, okay, I'm going to make a couple changes here. Nothing major in terms, because the artwork that I got from my 3 artists are great. So that's not changing. I'm not changing those. I'm very, very happy with each and every one of those. And I love the fact how different they are from each other, which is what I enjoyed about Trick or Treat. But Trick or Treat was a little different in that a couple of them had already been done. 2 of the 3 artworks were existing artworks that Devin Whitehead and Justin Osborne had done that we updated and repurposed for our packaging. And each of the artworks had a different title treatment. 2 of them did, and then we used the original title treatment for Sean Longmore's art. So I liked the idea initially of doing 3 different title treatments, 3 different box covers. I didn't take into consideration, though, that Trick or Treat's title treatment is not necessarily iconic in a way like Fright Night's title treatment is, because it's the second in a film series. And it seemed to me that a lot of people were not happy about the fact that the title treatment was different for 2 of the other covers. And initially I thought, well, they're just going to have, and it's a little bit of an arrogant attitude. I agreed to go, well, the hell with it. I'm doing what I want, and that's all that matters. But when you hear enough of it from a lot of different people in a lot of different venues and a lot of different methods, I mean, I even had people emailing me about this. You start to go, well, maybe they have a point. Maybe they have a point. So I decided to revisit 2 of the covers and look and see if maybe there was something that could be done there in terms of the title treatments. And then the other thing I was getting is, well, there were a lot of people who were like, I wish we could have the original video art. It's from artist Margot Nahas, who did the white, basically what we call the white art of the eyes and the mouth that was on the original IVE video cassette, which is the artwork that will be on the slip sleeve in the case. But a lot of people really wish that we had that option for one of the boxes. And my whole thing with that was, it's like, I'd rather do something new. I really would rather do, and then you still get the artwork on the inside of the box. I didn't want to just recycle something, but then again, and this didn't really come up with Trick or Treat because Sean Longmore's kind of played into the original theatrical art somewhat, so it felt very similar. And again, I don't think that had quite the same impact as Fright Night 2, because that video box was really remarkable because it stood out amongst a sea of dark and red and really kind of sinister looking covers on the shelf. You had this bright white one that always stuck out. And so that artwork, and I hate using this word iconic, but it became, certainly to horror film fans, a very iconic cover. So I thought, well, should that video art be one of the other covers? But I certainly wasn't going to replace one of the existing ones we've done, because I love those and we're sticking with those. But could we do a 4th cover? Is that too much? Well, technically, I guess we could do 100 covers. It doesn't matter. You don't have to buy every single damn cover to get. It's not like I'm only putting one feature on one of the covers and then putting the other features on another cover. It's going to be the same contents, and it's just another option. So, okay, well, all right. So, I'm going to show you guys what we're doing now. This is the revised cover option situation for Fright Night 2 when it comes out. Still not announcing a release date, but we're getting closer. But this is what they'll look like. The same 3 arts from before, from Zachary Jackson Brown, Sean Longmore, and Graham Humphreys. But on Sean's and Graham's, I have updated them with a variation of the original title treatment that was used on the theatrical poster, which was the basically they just updated. It was I was never fond of that artwork. It's basically the same exact poster from the first movie, but instead of a house, it's an apartment building or a dorm building. That's it. That's really all the difference was. So, but that's a variation of that same title treatment, only I adapted it for those two covers. And quite frankly, I think it looks great. And it kind of makes me wonder why I didn't do that in the first place. So, for those of you out there who said, and look, it's a minor thing, and I might not have bothered with it, but again, when you hear enough criticism from enough different sources, you start to go, okay, maybe there's something here to that. And you don't want to shut yourself off to that. Now, the other one is our new cover D. And trust me, there's not going to be a cover E. So that's it. This is it. I'm not doing that. But we're doing a cover D. And that will be the original video art by Margot Nahas from the old IVE days, and we're going to do that on the outside of that box. And so that's what will be the one. So it's look, it's a great piece of art, and there's a reason that it has stuck with people for so many years, because again, it wasn't like anything else that was out there. And so, do you have Graham basically under contract for East? Really? No, I don't. I just think Graham Humphreys is a great artist. I think Sean Longmore's a great artist, and Zachary really blew me out of the water with his. So I have a stable that I've kind of gotten together to do artwork for a lot of these releases. It'll I'm sure be a very similar situation with Hello Mary Lou when we get going on that one. But I'm hoping that this will please some of the people who had issues with the previous covers. Again, I would have been perfectly happy to go with what we had. I'm still very proud of those artworks. I think they're great. But look, at the end of the day, if you shut yourself off to criticism completely, that's not a good thing. But it can be very hard on the internet to figure out what is constructive griping and what is just a bunch of fanboy nonsense. And that's, and I don't mean to insult anybody by saying fanboy nonsense, but I think you know what I mean by that. That there's a certain level of nitpicking and complaining that, again, it's not really coming from a constructive or a well thought out perspective. It's more of, this isn't what I like personally, therefore go to hell, is kind of what their attitude is. And some of the things I saw were like, that's such a specific thing that only you and maybe a few other people would like. I don't think it's, you have to come up with artwork at the end of the day that can appeal to as many people as possible. But also, I want, it's my video line. I get to do what I want to some degree. But I also want people to like it. I want people to be happy. So you learn to just kind of sift through it and, okay, well, that doesn't really apply. That doesn't really apply. Oh, that's interesting. I'm seeing, when you start seeing a pattern, and then when you also couple in, emails you get from people or messages you get on Facebook or even Instagram, you tend to go, okay, maybe there's something here. Because if you just go off the stuff on Blu-ray.com, it can get a little crazy. There's a lot of fine people that post on Blu-ray.com, but there are some very, shall we say, very passionate folks on there sometimes that get really in the woods on some things there. And if you're trying to please every single one of those people or every one of the people out there who have a negative opinion of your project or have something that's they're terribly fond of, you're never going to please. First of all, you're probably never going to please them, and then you're not going to please a whole bunch of other people. So I gave up trying to please everybody a long time ago. However, again, it's important to listen. It's important to understand that your audience sometimes has a very good point. And that's where we're coming in on here. So that's why I made the choice to make these changes. And so there you go. So hopefully, so feel free to spread this image around. Um, oh, Edie. Yeah, you know, Screen Factory. I'm look. I like doing the hard boxes and different artworks. I like that a lot. Um, and then the slip cases are all going to be the Nahas artwork, and then the reverse will be the theatrical art. The you know the reinterpretation of the Night One poster that'll be on there as well. But I just wanted to, again, if it's just the old stuff, that isn't interesting to me. I like because at one point these movies didn't have artwork, so they came up with something new. So this is and Fright Night 2 has had a spotty history on home video for years. So I wanted to do something that really helped to reintroduce it and give it something new. And I think with the three artworks, that's accomplished that goal very, very well. But I have to acknowledge that what has come before made a much bigger impression than maybe even I gave it credit for. So cover D hopefully scratches that itch for people. And it's really it's an attractive piece of art. And actually that I can tell you that there will be an interview with Margot Nahas on the Blu-ray on the UHD. Um, a filmmaker, a friend of mine, Christian Day, knew her, worked in the same building as her, and managed to go interview her about doing that artwork. So it's going to be a nice little featurette that will be on there. So there you go. That's you know that'll be something there for you. But again, that the white artwork was really quite unique. Well, it can't be quite unique. It's just unique, and it stood out. And it's the artwork that has been so. That's the thing about Fright Night 2. Around the world, it was either that or the theatrical poster. That was pretty much it. There are a few odds and ends here, but like Hunter's Blood had a half dozen different artworks that floated around all over the world for as brief a release as that got. Trick or Treat had a shit ton of different ones. Fright Night 2 has had essentially two different artworks. So it was really either this or that classic, the variation on the theatrical art from part one. So, it's there you go. So I'm hoping people will like these changes a little bit and be okay with it. In terms of the quantities we're doing on each, I have no idea yet. Um, we haven't even decided that yet, but those will be the 4 options that you will have. You will be able to get cover A through D. And like I said, there will be no E, there will be no F, no G. This is it. So, Ethan, yes, she does. In fact, in the interview, the painting is right behind her in the shot. Yeah, she still has it. So that kind of blew my mind too. It's like, holy shit, the artwork's still lying around. And she even has the some photos that she has that she used as reference for the eyes and the lips. And we have that to display as well. It was really quite such a random thing that this came up, but I'm so glad that we were able to get it. Hunter's Blood actually Graham was so cool because I contacted Graham about if he had a scan of his art for Hunter's Blood for the Palace video release in the UK. Because I just thought that was a really cool piece of art. It's so different. And he had the original painting. So I bought it. So I have the original. I'm going to get it framed and hang up here somewhere. So not only was I able to get a good scan of it because I had it, I actually have it permanently. So I actually have that artwork. I love collecting artwork from movies. I'm not a big props guy, but I love getting movie concept art and movie poster paintings and things like that. And I love collecting shit like that. It's harder and harder to do that these days because what pieces are out there are pretty overpriced. Like, I don't know if anybody knows this or not, but on eBay right now, if you have $1 million, you can buy the Knight Riders painting, which is not $1 million because it's a Knight Riders movie poster painting. It's $1 million because it's a Boris Vallejo. If it weren't Boris Vallejo, that would not be that much money. And that's the sad thing, is my interest in the Knight Riders painting has little or nothing to do with Boris Vallejo, although he's an amazing artist. It's because it's George's Knight Riders painting. That's a good comment there. I let the Majorettes painting go because I was never going to display it. It was cool because it was a Joanne Daly piece and she did the Creepshow artwork and several others, but I was never going to display it. And it wasn't a film that I had a personal connection to. I just thought, oh, that's a really cool thing to have. But then I realized, if it's just going to sit around in a drawer, then why own it, Because I have limited wall space in this house. And what's up there now, I'm not taking down. So I kind of have to try to figure out where to put all this shit. It's not easy. But so that's why I let that one go. Because it was like, Oh, did Vallejo do the Q of the Winged Serpent as well? Oh, yeah, I'm sure that one. But again, it's because it's Vallejo. If it was, John Smith had done the Knight Riders poster, then I don't think it would be someone would be trying to fetch $1 million for it. Although it is notable, it has been up there for a long time for $1 million, and I don't think it's going to sell anytime soon. But sad, whoever picks that up, whoever buys that is going to buy it because it's a Vallejo probably, and the fact that it's for George Romero's Knight Riders may not mean much of anything to them, which is it's just interesting. What is the value? What's important about a particular thing to you may not be important to someone standing right next to you. Oh, I could post pictures of my poster collection. It's not as impressive as you might think. I don't buy nearly as much stuff as you might think I would, because the problem is I can make an excuse to buy all of it, and then where do I put it? And there was a point where I had so much stuff sitting in drawers and stuffed away under a bed and in a closet or whatever, that I was just like, why do I have all this stuff if I'm just going to have it in a drawer? It's one thing if you have an emotional attachment to something for some reason, but most of the stuff I just bought it because, oh, that's cool, and I threw it in a drawer. And I stopped doing that. I don't buy something anymore unless I'm actively going to do something with it. But yeah, I don't know where the Q the Wing started. That thing's probably, who knows, maybe Larry Cohen had that. I don't know. Because back when they did those artworks, they probably didn't mean much of anything to anybody besides the distributor itself. I mean, no one was thinking in terms of people wanting to collect that stuff. But yeah. So hopefully people are happy with the Fright Night 2 options. I'm sure there are still people who are going to be bitching, because there's always got to be people bitching. Now, one thing I would like to discuss, because I saw someone here asking a question about it, so let me post this up here, because it's a fair question to ask. If I can find out where it was. Well, I may have gone back. Oh, here we go. Is Fright Night 2 going to cost $100? No, it will not. It's not going to cost $100. What the final cost is, I am not in a position to tell you right now, because we haven't figured it out yet. But I want people to understand, because that's one complaint I have seen regarding Hunter's Blood, is that the cost is high for a film that a lot of people don't really know much about, and maybe not be their cup of tea or whatever. I understand that. That's fair. And I don't want people to think that we set these prices arbitrarily just to see if we can gouge people. I've seen the accusation of price gouging go up a lot. And look, you can have, I understand your criticism, and I can understand, hey, I have no problem with people saying, hey, that's too much money for me for this movie, I'm not going to buy it. Perfectly fine. Perfectly fair. That does not bother me in any way, shape, or form. You got to make choices about what you want to spend your money on. And there you go. The idea that we're sitting around, though, trying to figure out how much can we fuck the fans over and how much money can we get out of their pockets, is not how I think. I know it's not how anyone at Synapse thinks. We put a lot of time and a lot of effort into Hunter's Blood. A lot. I mean, it took almost 2 years to finish that project. And if I made a mistake, and I'm not saying I did because I'm very proud of I'm very proud of the box. I'm very proud of this box, and I'm very proud of this box too. And I wouldn't change doing this because this movie never got any love when it first got released, and now we've given it all the love. But it's possible that maybe I overestimated uh, the idea of doing a deluxe box set for that movie out the gate like that. Maybe. Maybe it was something where I could have just done an O card and still had all the features and everything on it, and that would have been enough for people. I don't know. I don't know. And, maybe I shouldn't be talking about it like that, but um, at the end of the day, I felt very passionately about Hunter's Blood, and I just went with my instincts on it. Most of the time, I think my instincts are pretty dead on. Maybe they were not. Maybe they weren't dead on this time. Maybe I got a little bit ahead of myself. I don't know. I don't know. It's possible. Um, but I stand by it. I'm very proud of it, and I definitely think it's worth the money if you are interested in that movie. I think that I've all the extras that we did, all the physical extras as well as the ones on the disc. I think the transfer of the movie looks absolutely gorgeous. I think Don did an amazing job. David Block, our colorist, really went to town and just brought out every bit of that film's photography. Some of the outdoor photography, especially the night stuff, just looks so good. Um, the 5-1 remix that was done. It's I really think. Oh, and that was one thing. A couple people commented that they were confused as to why this has kind of a rough texture to it. That was deliberate. That's what I wanted. I didn't want a glossy package for this. It's a woodsy thriller. It's kind of a rough and tumble kind of movie. I wanted kind of a rough and tumble, kind of worn feeling package for it. That's why it doesn't have glossy, soft touch paper. I wanted something that was a little bit more kind of kind of like a rough, kind of more like a natural finish to it. Maybe that was a mistake. I don't know. I don't think so. I think it looks great. But, you know, so that I am not ignoring those comments from people who say, hey, that's just too much money. I'll wait for the regular edition. That's perfectly legitimate. And I'm not, that's not bitching and moaning. That's people's. I want people to tell me how they feel about the work that I'm doing. And I want people to tell me what they like and also maybe what they don't like. Um, I'm not saying that that's necessarily going to affect how I may do something going in the future, but I do hear them and I do listen and I do make decisions when I think about, because there's always that thing in the back of my head going, does that person have a point? Or sometimes it's that person has a point, but it's not something that I'm interested in doing necessarily. It's tricky, I think, and look how many. Can you imagine what a company like Marvel or Lucasfilm have to deal with in terms of their consideration of the fan communities? I mean, that's on a scale that I can't even imagine. If I was a filmmaker and someone offered me a chance to do a film based on an existing IP, I would run so far from that you wouldn't be able to see me after a few minutes. I mean, I would. No thanks, because it was just the avalanche of stuff that the negativity would seem to outweigh any positive reason to do something like that. But with this, it's a little bit of a different situation on a much smaller scale. But it's again, I just have to find a way to balance. What is this the right approach for this particular movie? Is this going to, and if we have to charge a certain amount of money, are we giving the people their money's worth? I certainly think in the case of Hunter's Blood that we are. So I don't think that's an overpriced set in terms of you're not getting your money's worth. It's a simple matter of that's a lot of money to ask for some people for a film that they A, may never have seen, or B, have seen and didn't necessarily connect to like they did to something like a Trick or Treat or a Fright Night 2 or something like that. Um, as far as a regular edition is concerned, Certainly won't be this year, and if it's next year, it would be late next year, because that's not even on the boards. That's not even something we're discussing, because we wanted to get this out, and we've got so many other releases in the pipeline right now that it's just not something that we are actively considering. And that's not being done to punish anybody because they don't want to buy the big. That has nothing to do with it. It's just that we've got a lot. I mean, Fright Night 2 is something we really want to get out there, and we want to get, because now we're also getting started finally on the Prom Night sequels. There was a long delay with that, with the elements, which I won't bore you with right now, but we're finally full steam ahead on those things. And then there's also, and it's not my release, but I am doing a shit ton of extras for Near Dark right now, which is a Synapse release that will be coming up in the future. Can't tell you what any of them are. Can't tell you what the release date is, what the release plan is. That's Synapse to discuss. But they have announced that they're doing it, and I can at least tell you that yes, I am working on a lot of extras for that, and because that movie means a lot to me in ways that, well, you'll probably be able to read about, because I'm going to hopefully have an essay in the rather large booklet that I'm sure will be in this thing, because I wrote the liner notes for the Anchor Bay edition years and years and years ago, because I was part of that team. So this movie has been in my life in a lot of ways, some of which you may not realize, but you'll find out about later. So to be able to work on it again all these years later, to have it circle back into my life again, it's, just really special. It's just really special. So that's another thing that's occupying a lot of my time right now. And then Fright Night 2, Angel of Heat, Hello Mary Lou, Prom Night 2, 976 Evil 2, Prom Night 3, Prom Night 4. And then there's other titles that we're acquiring, which probably won't be able to start on until next year. It's a lot. Not to mention the other titles I'm working on for. I got a project with Sony right now I'm wrapping up. I've got a couple of Vestron. I mean, I got a lot of stuff. So if there is a single disc at some point of Hunter's Blood, it's going to be a while. Just because it's just not something we can really even devote the time to focus on right now. And we want to give the limited edition its chance to be out there, and hopefully people will give it a shot. But again, I am sympathetic to those people who say, hey, I wouldn't mind picking this up, but that's a lot of money to ask of me right now. I get it. I understand that. Does not hurt my feelings to hear that. And it's good to hear that feedback, because it may impact a decision on another title going forward. What do we want to do for this? Is it, where is the sweet spot in terms of how this title will be received in the marketplace, and what people would expect to pay for something like that? Again, it's not a scientific process, and you're just kind of shooting in the dark and hoping that you connect with folks, that it works, and that people trust you to deliver something that's worth their time and their money. Because these days, both are in short supply, it seems like. I'm not going to get political or anything right now, but I think we can all agree it ain't too good out there right now. It just doesn't feel very good out there right now. So, but I can tell you right now, if you buy Hunter's Blood, you will not think that we shortchanged you on the value. Whether you like the movie or not, that's beyond our control. But we gave you the best that we could possibly give you for that movie. And I'm very, very proud of it. And I'm so happy that it's out there now finally for people to see. A movie that has deserved a lot better over the years and has never gotten it, ever. I mean, it never even got a token DVD release. So, again, that's where I stand on that. And I hope that people understand what I'm saying about that. But anyway, let's see. I missed a whole bunch of your questions and comments here. I'm sorry. Let me. Is the Q&A from the Salem screening going to be on the Fright Night 2? I hadn't planned on that, because I don't know. I hadn't planned on that. But I'm sure there will be some footage or something from it that I might use. I don't know. This was all kind of, I won't say it was last minute, because it really wasn't last minute, but it was something that we weren't necessarily planning on doing. And I'm really glad that we are, and I'm glad that we're doing it for the reason that we're doing it, even though I wish we didn't. I wish we didn't have to. I wish Eric was in a better situation because he's a really great guy. But I'm so happy to see that people are going to be out there for him and helping to support, not just seeing the movie, which is great, but really the whole. This is all about getting some monetary and financial support for Eric and his family. And so I'm just so glad, and I'm beyond grateful to William Ragsdale and Julie Carmen for coming out for this. I mean, that means the world. It really does. And again, a big shout out to Chris McGibbon of Spooky Picture Show, who is really the one who's been driving this and helping to put this whole thing together. He does a whole bunch of screenings out at the Salem Theater. In fact, he's doing one right now for I think Critters is on tonight. I'm not sure which one is being shown tonight. So he's out there right now, and so he's fortunately not here to hear me say anything nice about him because I would never hear the fucking end of it. So I may cut this out of the version that goes up on Facebook because on the record, Chris sucks. But between you and me, he's done a remarkable job getting this screening together, and he deserves a lot of the credit for any success that it's going to have. And it looks like it's going to be very successful. So anyway, but you didn't hear that from me. In fact, I may just say that this part was all AI generated by some guy, and it wasn't me at all. Let's see. Are the interviews on camera and not via Zoom? Ilsa Tigers of Siberia. Yeah, I don't know about that particular interview you're talking about. I don't do Zoom interviews. I just don't like doing them. I'm not saying they can't be done well, but they're honestly, to do them well is just as complicated and as time consuming as getting someone with a camera out there to do it right. I do not like doing Zoom interviews, and they became a real problem during the pandemic because that's all people were doing for a while. And quite frankly, I think they look and sound like garbage most of the time. And I really don't like doing them. So no, none of the interviews I'm doing for any of my projects are Zoom interviews. Again, not saying you can't do them well, but you really have to just I don't like them. I don't particularly care for them at all. Never have. I understand. Yes, this is yeah. That's kind of what my attitude has always been. Hey, if it's too expensive, you don't like it, don't buy it. Which is a fair point. But what I was hearing from some people on Hunter's Blood was like, no, I really do want to buy this, but that's just too much right now. And you know what? Again, I get that. I'm not insensitive to that complaint. And it's made me think about things on some titles going forward. Where do you go all deluxe box sets on everything, or do you have to kind of really take a hard look and go, okay, maybe that's not the approach for this. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Again, I wouldn't change anything I did on Hunter's Blood. I'm very proud of that. But, again, when enough people say things and they're saying things that are reasonable and make sense, you start to go, well, wait a minute. Okay, there may be something to this. Cover D. Well, it looks like Cover D is getting some people. Yeah, Prom Night's out in 4K in Germany. That will not be the same thing that Synapse is bringing out soon. I can tell you that right now. Wait till you see and hear Synapse's new Prom Night. It's awesome. It's so good. Is there going to be a feature discussing how much you went through to get Fright Night 2? No, there will not be a video feature, but there will be something in the booklet about it for sure. Much like I did on Hunter's Blood. Because, yeah, there was... And that's one I can't really even get into all the particulars because there's some people involved who don't want necessarily a whole bunch of stuff out there about this because there's some legal stuff and some things like that have been an issue in the past, but they're glad it's all settled now. It was, let's just say, it took a lot of people looking through a lot of paperwork and a lot of lawyers and a lot of bullshit to make Fright Night 2 happen. And we're all very happy about it, but we're all just kind of like, okay, great, let's just never talk about this again and just get it out there. And which we are more than happy to do, by the way. But that was it was, I want to say, it's been almost 15 years since I first started investigating that. And that's how long that took. That was even more than no, I don't know. Was Trick or Treat more? I think, no, Trick or Treat wasn't as long as that. I think Trick or Treat was only 12, maybe 13 years. But in any case, these things take a while. But no, there will be something in the booklet about it. But an exact step-by-step breakdown of everything that we went through on that would require a couple of books, and really wouldn't be that interesting at the end of the day. I don't think so, because it's interesting to me to a point, and then I just start getting tired even thinking about it. So, oh God Almighty, Jesus, son of a bitch. And a new release coming code March. Oh, that's Hunter's Blood. That was the Hunter's Blood announcement, which you can get at synapsefilms.com, orbitdvd.com, or diabolicdvd.com. So if you're doing international, Orbit or Diabolic are the way to go. The Anchor Bay edition of Near Dark was one of my favorite projects I've ever worked on, ever. It was a big deal. That took almost a year and a half to clear up the rights on that. And I was working very closely with Jay Douglas, my boss, the VP of Acquisitions, who sadly is no longer with us, to get that thing cleared up. Because the studio that owned it didn't know that they owned it and insisted they didn't own it, but I knew they did. And it was literally us just kept telling them, you own it, you have these rights. And it took, again, like it was so many of these, for someone to go in the basement, blow the dust off of a couple of old boxes, go through the paperwork from 20 years ago, go, oh, shit, we do have this. Well, now what do we do? And so that's kind of what it was with Near Dark back then. And, the artwork, Mike Ortiz, my good friend who would design that artwork, did such a great job on that with the holographic foil. And that was the first time we were able to do one of those slip case boxes for the right amount of money, where we didn't overpay for it. And we worked with this great company called AGI at the time that really helped us out, not just in the pricing, but a lot of technical issues that came up with the printing of that, and getting to, like, for example, when you look at the inside of the case for Near Dark, the Anchor Bay one, there's each main character has their own panel, and there's a signature of each character in there. All those signatures were done by the people in the graphics department, including, although I wasn't part of the graphics department, I'm Homer's autograph. I got to do Homer. Mike was Jesse. Rob Webb, one of our designers, was Severin. Dave Zupek, another one of our designers, was Caleb. Diamondback was Jill Valuette. And Gail, who was our head of our graphics department at the time, she was May. And so that was everybody's. And then I wrote the liner notes that are in there, which I am hoping to also, well, I will. They're going to be reprinted to some degree in the upcoming Near Dark volume that will be accompanying the set. At least that's the plan, along with some additional notes from me on that as well. But that was it, and that really sold huge for us, like a couple 100,000 pieces or something like that back then. And it reintroduced that movie to a whole new audience that had never seen it, never even heard of it. And then it went to Blu-ray with Lionsgate with that Twilight cover, and then disappeared again for a long period of time. So it's weird. This movie has just had these long periods of unavailability, which it's never made any sense to me. But now it's coming back. Synapse is doing a brand new 4K from the original negative. I've already seen some of it. You're going to love it. It's going to just, oh my God, it's going to be so good. But I won't say any more about it because that's not my place to say anything. But it's a big one. Let's just say that it's going to be a big release, just in time for its 40th anniversary next year. And the fact that movie's turning 40 next year makes me feel so old. Oh my God. But there you go. But he will do justice to the Anchor Bay edition, that's for sure. That's for sure. Do you do some research when you do a release and how to contact those people? Oh, absolutely. You know, you look up who you want to interview, who you think needs to be interviewed. Are they still around? Are they still in the business? Some people are very easy to contact. Some people you have to do detective work and hunt them down because they've moved to Montana or something like that. And sometimes you get people who are like, no, I don't want to talk about that. Um, I had one of the lead actress from Trick or Treat. She's kind of moved on into a completely different place in her life, and she didn't really want to talk about her acting career anymore. So I got a very polite but very very definitive, no, I don't want to do that. And you just got to go, okay, well, that's how that is. And then other people are like, oh my God, yeah, I'd love to talk. I can't believe that's coming back out. That's awesome. Here's a book of photos I took on the set. It's a remarkably imperfect process, but it can be very entertaining and then also extremely frustrating at times. But it's just, you just get on the internet. It's easier now than it used to be back in the Anchor Bay days, because the internet is so much more tied into so many different databases and research facilities now, and film labs, and address books. I mean, it's like a whole different world we're living in than we were back in the early aughts when I worked at Anchor Bay. But it's still remarkably challenging sometimes to find people that are sometimes still active in the business, but for one reason or another you can't get a hold of them. It's very weird. How much time is there between the idea to release a Blu-ray and to get it released? Everything from 6 months to 15 years. And it sounds like a smart ass answer, but it's the truth. You'll sit here and go, boy, where's that movie? Oh, the rights are over here. Hey, is this available? Yes, it is. How much do you want? This much. Okay, we get it for 7 years. Sign the deal. Where are the elements? Here they are. Do the transfer. Get the extras together. Do the sound. Remaster the blah blah blah. Get the packaging together. Even under the best of circumstances, like if you were rushing it, 6 months at least. And that seems to me like high speed to get something out. Other times, where is it? Don't know. Do you know? Maybe. Does he know? No. Does that guy know? No. Well, I know a guy. You could spend 3 or 4 years just trying to find the rights to a movie, and then you get the rights to it. Okay, great. Where are the film elements? Oh shit, I don't know. Oh my God. And so it varies for every film. There's no what I would call standard amount of time, unless you're working for a studio like a Lionsgate, where they have the rights already, they have the elements in play. They're the ones that decided to release it, so they know what they have and what their time. That can be like a 6 month, sometimes a little less even, but you're cutting out a lot of the legwork there for something like that. Because again, they've got it all squared away, and the elements are in their vault. They pull it up and they can get something going while you're working on the extras. And they've got a marketing team, they've got a packaging team, they've got all that stuff in play. But even then, it's still months. It just takes a lot of effort on a lot of, and now that I'm doing my own releases and handling a lot more of those responsibilities through Redshirt Home Video, through Synapse, it's even I'm learning things now that I didn't fully understand. Oh, that's why that takes so long. That's why this. Okay, all right, no, but so in answer to your question, anywhere from 6 months to 15 years, depending on what film it is we're talking about. It can be really frustrating. Yeah, it's but see, some people really, they did their acting thing, and something happened in their life, and they soured on it, or it wasn't fulfilling for them, and they decided to start a family or a whole new career of some kind, and they just want to leave that acting thing behind. They don't want to touch it, and they don't want to. It's not that they're ashamed of it, but they don't want to reopen it because somehow. And I heard someone explain this once. I don't want to reopen it because I don't want to be tempted to consider it again. I'm very happy with where I am now, and I don't need to go back to that. And I can respect that completely. I understand that. But then again, some people are like, "Oh hell yeah, come on over. They couldn't be happier to discuss it." It's very person specific. How does a company like Arrow pump out so many releases a month? They have a huge staff, or at least a huge staff compared to what I have, which is me and some people that I farm out work to, and a couple producers who work for me and do a lot of work. And then Don and Jerry at Synapse. So it's it's not a very deep pool of people that we're using to do these things because we really can't afford to do that. But with a company like Arrow, that's a major company with salaried employees and things like that, so they can get more of that done. But yeah, so that ain't me. That ain't me. Oh, any other questions here that I've missed? I assume you're mentioning you're when you say we love Chris, you're talking about Chris McGibbon. Yeah, he's actually really really cool. But Rick Paulton, am I going to Living Dead Weekend? Yes, I am. And you want me to sign your Hearts of Darkness of making the Final Friday poster? I will absolutely do that. Everybody else seems to be charging about $50, $60. So I'm just going to go with that. And I will actually, you know what? I'm going to make it $100 because I'm kind of rare. I'm hard to get a signature from. So, yeah. However, if you catch me just sort of walking around, I'll add another $20 to it. So that'll be $120 for my signature. I can't even keep that up. Bring whatever I'll sign whatever you want. The day that I start charging for my autograph, this whole thing is going to collapse. So happy anyone who ever wants my autograph or anything. First of all, the fact you're even asking me is hilarious to me, but I'm very grateful. But I am not looking to charge anytime soon, unless I get a major role in an ongoing series or a big fan property of some kind, which I'm sure will happen anytime. You do not expect me to be charging for my autograph anytime soon, because that's just silly. But yes, please, I'll be hanging around a couple different tables, but always check Savini's table first because I like to hang around Tom and harass him and basically humble him as much as I possibly can over the course of the weekend. It's a lot of fun for me. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Where's the king? Yeah, that whole prank. I don't know how that got started or why it got started, but no, I am not doing King Fred or Purple People Eater. Not that I wouldn't if they became available, but I am not working on King Frat or Purple People Eater right now. And Wes Vance is not asking. He knows damn well I'm not. I'm still kind of pissed at those guys over that. In fact, you know what? I'm never doing deadpit.com again. That's it. Just I will never do it again. Ever. Screw it. Or at least until whatever next time they want me on there. I need that autograph, Slippy. Would you sign it with this afterwards? Salty beef flaps? That I might have to charge for. You may have found the one exception to the rule. I don't understand how these things get started. This is why if you ever look at my reaction to the deadpit.com appearances I do, my reaction most of the time is I'm reading the comments and I'm just like this. I'll just be sitting there going, it's a weird crowd. I mean, God bless them, but it's a weird crowd. So I don't know how the salty beef flaps thing even came up. I don't even remember the context of why it was. Um, but so yeah, I don't. There's, yeah, I'll sign it. That's fine. That's fine. What the fuck? Yeah. When is it time to pre-order? When it is time for, will you give us a heads up? Yes, I will, absolutely. Yes. And that'll be, like we did for Hunter's Blood a couple weeks ago. We'll definitely get on there and say, go get it. But yeah, but we're not there yet, but we're getting closer. We're not there yet. That sounds painful. Never understood that. I mean, that guy had me in stitches. Ouch. That's a weird phrase. But hey, if that's what turns you on. Oh. So this is your fault. Well, then I am definitely going to charge you. You've never seen Fright Night 2? Well, wait till you see it with us. Don't watch it before. Hold off, because trust me, our version looks so damn good. You're not gonna believe it. Well, actually, you probably will believe it because you've never seen it before, looking shitty. So, and if you think those Spanish Blu-rays or whatever they were floating around for a number of years, they look great. Wait till you see what we've done. Oh my God, it looks so good. Mark Irwin, the DP, came in and signed off on it and made some corrections to it and got to do some things that he'd always wanted to do with the movie. So it looks so good. It's a beautiful looking film. And yeah, I can't wait for people to see it. I really can't wait. I'm so happy about that. Now, Jared Lee Dotson, this is interesting to me. I'm patient, I'll wait. I don't think that's ever been said by anybody in the home video fandom before. I don't think those words have ever been uttered by anybody. You may very well be the first person to say, I'm patient, I'll wait. I've never seen that before. I mean, that you deserve some sort of an award for that, sir. I mean, that's wow. Props, dude. Props. Yeah. Thoughts? I love the movie Rituals. I would love to do a remastered version of that. Unfortunately, the negative went missing many years ago. And there were some processing errors with that movie initially that caused a lot of the scenes to be much darker than they were supposed to be. So I don't even know if we had the negative, how much more you could do, but it's unfortunately a much rougher looking movie than it needs to be. But I would love to do a remaster. I love Rituals. I absolutely adore that movie. Sadly, so many people from that movie are gone now, which is a real shame. But I love Rituals. I actually like it a little bit more than Deliverance, which is the movie that it gets compared to all the time. And in fact, Hunter's Blood is very much a film of a piece with those other films. But no, I love Rituals, man. Give me a good Canadian backwoods thriller any day of the week, man. Other than FN2 and Near Dark, are there any other vampire movies on your release list in the next few years? Not at present, but if one pops up, I mean, there's no shortage of vampire movies out there. And just to make it very clear, I'm working on Near Dark, but that's a Synapse Films release. But I am doing, again, a shit ton of extras for it. But that's not a Red Shirt release. That's a Synapse release. So I just want to make that distinction clear. But no, I'm sure there are other vampire movies that will come up because vampires have seen some time in front of the camera over the years. I guess. I think it's the other thing. Yeah, Kella, I think that's what it make me wait and you'll be a patient. Because there are a lot of escape mental patients in the chat for Dead Pit. And the guys who run it too are high on their own supply. I mean that with love, of course. Yeah, the Rituals Blu-ray, and I don't fault the people that released the Blu-ray. They probably had very limited materials to deal with. They might have been working from a print, and that's rough enough as it is, but especially with that movie. But there aren't a lot of options, unfortunately, in terms of what to work with on Rituals. I happen to agree with you, and I think Deliverance is a great movie, but I like Rituals more too. I may be just saying that to be you know, a trendy contrarian, just to be a hipster doofus, Well, I think Rituals is better than Deliverance. Well, I think Hunter's Blood is better than both of them. In fact, Hunter's Blood is available right now to purchase on Deluxe Edition UHD and Blu-ray. Go to Synapse Films or OrbitDVD.com or Diabolicdvd.com to purchase your copy now. That was a nice subtle segue into that, wasn't it? That was good. That was really good. Don't let him fool you. Slippy's working on a deluxe Twilight 8K box set right now. Okay, first of all, I like how you think that I wouldn't do that. I would absolutely do that. Because if they hired me for something like that, that'd be a nice amount of money. Because they've made a lot of money off of Twilight. So if Lionsgate called me up tomorrow and said, we want you to do a new box set of Twilight and get all the new extras and stuff together for Twilight, and this is what we're going to pay you. Okay. I mean, I'm a horror, man. I go where the money is. At the end of the day, not every film I've ever worked on I did for the love of the movie. A lot of them I did because, oh man, I got rent. Oh, I'll do that. Sure, whatever. I still put the same amount of time and love into the work, but it's at the end of the day, you don't have to love every single thing you work on. And sometimes you still get unexpectedly interesting stories out of film projects you might not have thought would have that many. So there you go. But shit, yeah. Pay me and I will work on anything you want me to. Not only have I seen Mountaintop Motel Massacre, I think I wrote liner notes for it back in the day during the Anchor Bay. I think I did. And then I did do some extras for the 88 films release of Mountaintop Motel Massacre. Yeah. Please don't disturb Evelyn. She already is. Yeah. No, I'm very familiar with that movie. Yes, Fright Night 2 would be the next release after Angel of Heat. That is the plan. When that will be, cannot say right now. But that is the planned order of things right now. Would be Hunter's Blood right now, Angel of Heat, and then Fright Night 2. So that you are correct, Mr. Hand. Oh, you must get tired of all those fast time jokes. Wow. Sorry, dude. Thought it was quite good. It's very good. That's a tricky costume to do because you have to age it up and water it down and make it look rotted to a certain degree. And then the makeup on part 7 it's my favorite of all the Jason makeups. And then you got the mask and the tattered clothing and all that. It's a tricky one, but I thought you did a good job. Oh, what time is it? It's almost 9 o'clock. Okay, I'm going to do another 15 minutes or so of this and then call it a night. I wasn't sure this many people would show up. I have almost 30 people here. That's pretty nice. Did I work on Lightning Bug? I was there when we did Lightning Bug, but I didn't work on that one necessarily. A lot of the titles would pass through at Anchor Bay, and I would sign off on oh, I like this about the artwork, or I would help track down stuff for some of the special features, or if they needed something in graphics like a poster or something, I would help out with that. But my job at Anchor Bay was so many different things, which is what made the job interesting. And ultimately that's one of the reasons that I left the company the way I did, because when the company IDT took over Anchor Bay, they turned it into a more traditionally structured corporate environment. So all the things I was doing that normally I would not be doing suddenly got farmed out to all the departments that would normally do it. And for the last 6 months that I was there, I hardly did anything at all. It was like that line from Office Space. And any given week, I do maybe 15 minutes of real work. And that's not a good feeling to have when it's at a company where you felt once like you were really contributing and really part of a team. To go from that to being just kind of sitting there twiddling your thumbs all day, it was a bad feeling. So when they called me into my boss's office and said, we phased out your position, we don't have anything left for you to do, I really wasn't that heartbroken over it. I was heartbroken over the fact that I wasn't going to have an office to go to and friends to see every day. but in terms of the satisfying nature of the work, that had kind of already left. So it was one of the most uh, uh, painless losings of a job I'd ever had, because I wasn't fired. I mean, they gave me a wonderful severance package and put me on as a consultant for 6 months. So for the rest of that year, I was financially set. I left in April of 2005, and that gave me the money and time to start up Redshirt Pictures. So it was a very amicable parting, but it was definitely something. It was like a little bird getting pushed out of the nest. It was time to go. It was definitely time to go. Oh, I'm glad you're enjoying the Spooky Picture Show. We're actually recording another episode tomorrow, so get ready for that. And we just did a really wonderful interview with Tina Romero last month that I was really happy with, and it's a great group of people. It really is. Chris and Kevin and Raina. I mean, it's just great. And Peter Brackey was on the show originally, and then Melanie Mullen killed him and took over his spot for a while. Um, I joke a lot about. I say a lot of things about how much I can't stand Mel and how much I hate Mel, and how annoying she was, and how much it was like fingers on a chalkboard with her. What else we got? Well, you're welcome. Will you ever use the Ozzy and Gene slipcover for Trick or Treat? This has come up a few times. Um, I've thought about doing a limited slipcover edition of the UHD and Blu-ray of Trick or Treat that replicates that really shitty Trick or Treat DVD cover with the nonsensical modern photos of Gene and Ozzy on the cover with the haunted house and the skull. It's that the cover that as in no way represents that movie, but people have a lot of ironic fondness for that. And I've had more than a few people say, "Hey, man, if you brought out an edition that had that cover, I'd buy it." Which I want to believe is not possible. But I've thought about doing like a limited, like you could just buy the slip cover for like $10 or whatever, like that, or something like that, and just do that and have people, um, maybe that's a good idea. Maybe we'll do like a run of like 1,000 slip covers that you could put over your existing Blu-ray or your UHD. That's a replica of that VHS, and that's something that you can order at Halloween or something like that, and that's it, and that would be it. So you wouldn't have to. There'd be no new Blu-ray or UHD to buy. You could just have a slipcover as an option, because it's hilarious. I did some research on that cover trying to find the photo of Ozzy came from a photo shoot in a tattoo magazine or something like that. The shot of Gene on the cover was a candid snap of him as he was walking into the premiere of the Johnny Depp Jack the Ripper movie From Hell. That's where that photo came from. He was outside a theater walking in, literally going like this, and that's the photo they used for the Trick or Treat cover. It's absolute. It's so fucking ridiculous. Um, so yeah, maybe I'll entertain the idea of just doing a limited run of a slip cover of that, which you can just buy to have it, or slip it over your existing Trick or Treat Blu-ray or whatever, and there you go. That might be kind of funny. That would, but I would need to get a lot of good feedback on that before putting because I'm not going to go through that if 5 people buy it. I mean, granted, it's just a slip cover, but still, I'm not going to throw money away, especially on a cover that's so unbelievably shitty. But it is it. I think that's kind of the reason most people want it, because also that was the only way to see Trick or Treat for a long period of time. So a lot of people first saw Trick or Treat by either renting or buying that stupid edition with that cover on it. So maybe, maybe, but we'll see. Let me know. Email me, text me, message me, whatever. If you think that's a good idea, let me know. And if enough people say yes, I might consider doing it. I might consider doing it. Because again, we're not going to do a whole new Blu-ray or DVD edition or UHD edition of that. That we're not going to do that, but you know. Oh, yeah. Actually, that's funny. They should. The decision to do an all-in-one BTS on the Dentist for 1 and 2, we just didn't get enough to make two separate pieces. It worked a lot better to do one piece. And that was a decision I made near the end when I got into post on those things and went, it's better just to do one whole piece on the effects rather than divvy it up into two pieces. I just felt it was a better way to go. But I think they had initially announced that they were going to be two separate ones, but then I changed it at the last minute. So that's why that happened. It's funny, I haven't thought about that since we did that. Man. All right, got about another 10 minutes to go here. And then I'm going to fuck off. And, oh, I guess I should. He usually makes an appearance, and he'll make an appearance now. The kitty, Victor, who was sleeping over here, and I just woke his silly ass up. But he likes to. There you go. He's great in the winter because he likes to get right up around my neck like this, and then put his foot in my fucking face. Thank you so much. Yes. But now he's pissed because he was all comfortable, and I picked him up and disturbed him. Yeah, there you go. He's a cute cat, but he's also weird. But then again, every single cat is weird. I've never met a cat that wasn't weird. But they're weird in very different ways. And he has this weird feather duster tail. Look at this fucking thing. Look at this. It is. It's ridiculous. Oh, Robert, I'm sorry to hear that your cat is sick. I know what that's like. My last cat, Mercury, who many of you would have seen on these chats, the last couple months of his life, he was horribly sick. And it was, oh God, it was maybe the worst 2 months of my life in recent years I can think of. They were horrible. In fact, when I finally had to put him down, as sad as I was, a part of me felt just enormous relief that all that was over. Because he wasn't going to get any better. It was mostly about just making him comfortable, and we weren't able to make him as comfortable as I wanted to, and it was just, oh. So yeah, I believe me, I feel for you going through that, and I hope it works out. Oh, she has a blockage? Well, look, I hope that works out, man. It's always such a crapshoot with pet surgeries because they can never make any kind of. I mean, they can't make any guarantees with human surgery either. But pet surgeries, there's so many question marks, and there's also the expense. But you don't want to consider expense when it comes to the things that you love. You don't want that to be a factor, but sometimes it is. And then you also have to think about, well, the odds, it's one thing if the surgery will work and she will be better and they will be fine or have a really good chance of being fine after this. But if it's a surgery like with my cat Mercury, there was an option for a surgery to possibly address the tumor he had, but there was no guarantee it was going to even solve the problem. And even under the best of circumstances, if it solved it, the tumor was probably going to grow back within a year. And it was like $10,000. I forget it was a ridiculous amount of money. So the money thing didn't bother me so much as the odds. I'm not going to put him through all that on a 10% chance of the first thing happening, followed up by an even smaller chance of the second thing happening. It's always a crapshoot. But look, man, I hope that it works out for your cat and that they get better and you go back to having wonderful moments like this where they just sit on you and don't really give a shit. Yeah, losing a pet absolutely sucks, but it's the price we pay. It's the price we pay for having so many wonderful memories with these weird little things for the time we have them. And then they go away. And then, I did like George Carlin's take on that. He says, like, that's the thing about having a dog. They don't live too long. You can go buy another one. In fact, you walk into the pet store, throw the old dog up on the counter and say, give me another one of them. That one was real good. If only it were that simple, you know. Kiwi, that's a great name. At the cat rescue I volunteer at the other day, one name came up as it would be perfect, Gary. I love a cat named Gary. That just cracked. I love that. I would totally name a cat Gary. Oh, oh man. Just Before Dawn 4K. Synapse is working on that, from what I understand. But I have no information on that at all. That's not under my purview, and I really don't have any details on that. I'm not even sure what's going on with that. But yeah. Oh, I can't scroll if you're sitting here, so this isn't going to work really. I didn't think ahead on this. But he's cute. He's cute. Oh. Why don't you get up and just go over to your bed again, and I promise not to harass you anymore right now. At least not right now. I promise. Okay? Okay. Sorry. Yes, I saw Night Visitor back when I rented the tape. I don't remember anything about it. So for all intents and purposes, I've never seen it. But I did rent the tape back when I was in junior high school or whatever. But yes, I have seen it, but I don't remember anything about it. So reality, no, I haven't seen it. In your head, that's it. It's in your imagination, because I'm not doing it. Yeah, that fucking thing, I tell you what, it's son of a bitch. Yeah. So, okay, got about 5 more minutes, and I'm going to call it a night. I think I've got these Fright Night covers up here long enough. Take that down. There we go. So hopefully people are happy with the Fright Night 2 thing, but that's as far as I go. I'm not making any more concessions, damn it. I have a backbone. That's true, I do. I just don't use it very often. Oh, excuse me. I've got my allergies. Excuse me. If anything does happen with King Frat, I want to be involved. Mark, I guarantee you, if I ever do King Frat, which I doubt I ever will, but if I ever do King Frat, I will make sure you are involved in some way. Let that be stated here for the record in front of all these 22 people, including yourself, that Mark Edward Hoyk will absolutely be involved in any potential 4K or UHD or Blu-ray or DVD or any re-release of King Frat that I may or may not do in the future. Guarantee that. Ever find those? No, I never. I wish I had taken a picture of those things when we had them in the office. I don't know. I don't think they ever got made. So maybe somebody else at the office took a picture. But see, this was back when we didn't have our cell phones in our pockets with built-in cameras. You actually had to have a physical fucking camera lying around. And, you just didn't do that. But no, those exist, sadly, only in my memory. And I wish that I could somehow translate to you what I remember seeing, which I may have exaggerated, to be fair, but that's the thing. I don't think I did, because I remember us all having conversations with each other going, what the fuck is this? So God only knows where those, what happened with that. But I don't think Jesus with a crossbow ever happened. At least I don't think it did. Yeah, I wish you had that opening night footage too, because it did have this opening night event down in I think Miami, or somewhere down in Florida, because one of the producers lived down there. And I tried contacting some news outlets down there that would have maybe covered it, but no one had anything, if they even bothered to cover it, which I don't know if they did. But I had a newspaper ad that's replicated in the booklet that talked about, I think some of the cast were even down there as well. But that was Hunter's Blood's big premiere. Was a little place down in Miami or in southern Florida, which goes to show you that that movie's release was not all it was cracked up to be. Ugh. You were pissing yourself. We couldn't believe it in the office when we're looking through these things because each of the religious figures had some weird accessory that didn't make any sense. Like I want to say Noah had nunchucks or some shit like that. I don't think that's what it was, but it was just as incongruous as Jesus with a crossbow. I'm sure like Moses had a rocket launcher or some dumb shit. It was just weird. And again, what made it even funnier was that the people who were promoting this thing, whose idea it was, they didn't think it was funny. They just thought this is a really modern uptelling or retelling of this. We're updating it and we're making it, hip and new. They were serious. And we just kept looking at them like, oh, God bless you people. You really have gone off the deep end, haven't you? Wow. Oh my. Oh no. North Miami Beach, Lowe's 160. Even, yeah, that's the ad I've got. The ad is actually in the Hunter's. Actually, I think I've got it. Believe it or not, I don't have finished copies of my Hunter's Blood releases yet. I have to pick them up next week. But I've got the ad. Yeah, that's the ad. I reproduced the ad in the booklet. So there's, yeah. I love newspapers.com. Oh man, that is coming so in handy when I'm doing featurettes and someone mentions, oh yeah, there was an article about which newspaper. Where is it? And I'll go find it and it's out there somewhere. Ugh. Oh, I saw the Chat GPT one that I saw that. It's not that different from what you created. At least in my memory, it's not. Because again, it's just inherently ridiculous because the Jesus figure was a conventional Jesus figure with the robes and it's not like they made Jesus look like Rambo or anything. It was, a traditional Jesus figure with a with a crossbow. And it was just like I'm pretty familiar with the teachings of Jesus, and I don't remember when the crossbow ever came in. Okay, whatever, I don't know. No details yet on the prom nights because we had a long delay trying to get access to the elements. It was a little bit of I'll just say it was a process. However, fingers crossed, it looks like that's all been resolved and we're full steam ahead, hopefully. So hopefully, but it's just been a long process, but we're going to get going on those very soon. But it's just as well because with all the other stuff we've had going on, I couldn't have focused much on them anyway. But Fright Night 2 has to get finished and done, and then we're full speed ahead on the prom nights. Though Prom Night 1 will be out before that, but that's a Synapse project, so. Yeah, NECA, get on the crossbow Jesus. But I forget. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't just Jesus. It was Jesus, Noah, Moses, and I want to say there was one other figure because they had a whole line. It wasn't like they didn't have like God or anything, but I can't remember who else from, it was a biblical figure. I don't think Mary Magdalene was in there because God only knows what her accessory would have been. But maybe Mary and Joseph might have been. That could have been it. Or a Cain and Abel playset. The mind reels at what the possibilities were. Yes, we have priorities. We have priorities. Specifically those priorities. So UHF got a really nice collector's edition from Shout a few years ago. Maybe they'll do a UHD. Oh, that's funny. A UHD of UHF. Wow, that's a lot of UHs. I would love to see that because I love UHF. I've always loved that movie. Kevin McCarthy was just having so much fun just chewing up the scenery in that. And Michael Richards, that was the first time I really was exposed to Michael Richards, and I love Stanley Spadowski and Spatula City and You're So Stupid. Oh, Red Snapper. And I was just, that movie is so much fun. It's so creative and so good natured. And just, oh man, welcome to Uncle Nutsy's Clubhouse. Hope you enjoy it. Oh God, it was great. I love that movie. Is really, really great. Just Cooney quotes are so. You got some new students up there? Yeah, they're so stupid. Wheel of Fish. Oh my God, that movie again was one that just it didn't connect at the time, but man, it found its audience after a while. Who's the most famous actor I have met? Is that okay? That's a good question. Well, that depends on what you consider famous. I mean, I don't know. Um, God, I don't know. Ed Harris. I got to interview Ed Harris at his house in Malibu, and then I bumped into Amy Madigan as I was leaving. She was coming up the driveway, and we said hello. So that's pretty good. Oh, Bryan Cranston. When I interviewed him for Alligator, I met him through that. I was doing it through a computer connection, but I did meet him because I just wanted to tell him how grateful I was that he even bothered to do that interview. And he was wonderful experience with him. Can't say enough good things about him. Um, I'm trying to think if there's anybody. Oh, it's funny. This just came up the other day. I still have it. It's faded a lot, but my dad ended up sitting next to Leslie Nielsen on a flight in 1981. He was coming back from somewhere, heading back to Los Angeles, where we were living at the time, and he got Leslie Nielsen to write something to me on a United Airlines in-flight magazine, and it was something to the effect of, "Michael, don't call me Shirley, Leslie Nielsen." And I just came across it the other day in a box out in the garage. It was in ballpoint pen, so it's faded really, really bad, but I still have that. Um, so yeah, I mean, but there's any number of other famous people that I've crossed paths with over the years, but those two kind of jump to mind because they're kind of outside the horror genre and just big names anyway. Um, but I never got a chance to meet Buck Flower. That would have been great. That would have been absolutely great. There's a lot of people I never got a chance. You know what? The one that I always am so glad I had a chance to interact with was Kevin McCarthy, who, funny, we just got talked about UHF. I think it was at Flashback Weekend in Chicago many, many years ago. And I didn't even know he was a guest there. And I just happened to walk by him. I looked down and I'm standing in front of his table and he's sitting there. And it was one of the few times I've ever gotten like really like starstruck. Cause it's like, this is Kevin fucking McCarthy. And if you ever got an autograph from him, you can attest to this. He didn't have like nice little stacks of photos on his table. It was like someone took all his photos, threw them up in the air, and then wherever they landed on the table was how he had them displayed. It was just a big pile. And you really couldn't make out what photos were what because they were overlapping each other. And anyway, I just was like, "Hi, Mr. Cart, big fan. Oh my God, I love your work." And he said, "Was there anything you wanted to get signed?" And I'm thinking of, well, what? And I had just rewatched Inner Space, like maybe 2 or 3 months before. And I said, "Well, do you have anything from Inner Space?" And he goes, "Huh." And he, without even looking really, he just took his hand, he dove into the pile, rummaged around without really looking, and then pulls out a black and white photo and hands it to me and says, "This is a photo of me with Joe Dante and Steven Spielberg. Is that okay?" It's that'll do. That'll do. And he signed that to me, and I just walked off like I just met Kevin McCarthy. So that one always sticks with me because, yeah, was he the biggest star in the world? No, but to me, he sure fucking was. And God, I couldn't. Not just Invasion of the Body Snatchers and his work back when he was, a young actor, but just all the Joe Dante movies he got to do. And that's one of the reasons I've always loved Joe Dante. Not just as a terrific filmmaker, which he is, but the fact that he regularly employed people that he grew up watching and really loved and made them part of sort of his repertory company. William Shallert and Kevin McCarthy and Dick Miller, of course. The fact that he gave those guys not just appearances in the movie, but sometimes really great parts. Was just I've always really had a very nice, a warm amount of affection for Dante, for fighting to have those guys in there somewhere and making sure that these guys had work, because I'm sure that those parts that they had in all those movies put them in mind for other people to employ them as well. You know, not that Dick Miller ever stopped working, or Kevin McCarthy either, but it was nice that they didn't. He used his directorial power for good, and getting a lot of these wonderful actors in there to do some really fun roles over the years. So that was great. Oh, you're welcome, Jared. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. Yes. The public means about as much to me as a festering bowl of dog snot. They make me puke. So if you put all their intelligence together, you might have enough and energy enough to tie my shoe, or something to that effect. Oh man, the one person, yeah, you mentioned Paul Verhoeven. I would love to meet him. There is one person. If I had to pick one person, I really wish I could meet, it's Werner Herzog, for several reasons. I have kind of a personal connection because of a project we did at Anchor Bay, the Herzog Kinski collection. But I just love that guy. I just love that man so much. And I love, he's the guy who's like, here, narrate the phone book, Werner. Not that anyone knows what a phone book is anymore, but I could just listen to that guy talk. I loved his, when he would speak about the Mandalorian, he says like, I would only do it if the puppet, I only want to do it if I get to work with the puppet. If it's not the puppet, you're mad. I want to see the puppet. I want to work with the puppet. I mean, he's just, and he was on Rick and Morty once, where it says like, all the humans talk about their penises. Oh yes, it's all about the size of their dicks and their Johnsons. But I would, I don't know what I would ask him about first, and we probably wouldn't even talk about his movies, because whatever you would discuss with him would infinitely be more interesting than anything I could even come up with. He's he's and I would just, yeah, just to be in the, just give me 5 minutes of Werner Herzog, please. That's all I ask out of life. He's, that guy has had one hell of a life. Only he could work with Kinski that many times and not actually kill him. Although he definitely came close to doing that a few times. Um, but now, so that footage of him in Burden of Dreams, the making of Fitzcarraldo, where he's just out in the jungle going, oh, the jungle is just, all it is base, and it's not really nature as much as it is a sense of collective murder. And he's just like, you're watching this guy go, he's gone. He's lost it. He is in the weeds. No, oh my god. So between him and Kinski, how they actually managed to make not only that movie but four others as well, I still can't imagine how he did that. Oh my god. Oh, he was really. I cheered when I saw him in Jack Reacher, because when I watched, I didn't know he was in it. So when he popped up, it was like, oh, this movie gets 4 stars. It's the same way I felt when Robert Forster showed up in Breaking Bad. When he showed up as the vacuum cleaner guy, the disappearer, and the camera panned up and it was Robert Forster, I was like, I'm in. The rest of this episode could be a monkey taking a shit, and I give it 4 stars because you cast Robert Forster in this, and you gave him a really cool part to boot. Oh man, man. All right, well, I could keep on and keep on going, but I'm gonna try. Eric Esposito had to ask a good question. Is there anyone you interviewed that you were expecting to be unpleasant based on reputation, but were surprised by their kindness? That's a really, wow, that's a good question. Because, yeah, people do come in with a reputation sometimes. I'm trying to think. Richard Rubenstein, the producer of Dawn of the Dead, has a reputation, but he was always very pleasant and very accommodating with me. And I wouldn't say I was surprised by, no, I was surprised by that. Um, but my dealings with him have always been very nice over the years, so that surprised me, because when we went to When we went to interview him, the fact that he even agreed to do the interview shocked me. This was for the Creepshow documentary. And we went to his office in downtown Manhattan. I think it was high up. I forget, like 24th floor, 27th floor. I forget how high up it was. And me and my cameraman, Graham Potts, from Canada, who I worked on with George's movies up there, and he came out and shot a lot of stuff for me over the years. Great guy. I just was so fortunate to have worked with him over the years. He came out to New York with me to shoot that interview. And we get up there in the morning and we walk in and they say, okay, Richard's gonna be ready in a bit. You can set up in the conference room. And we go in the conference room. Now this was 2006, 2007. And so we weren't using LED lights at the time. We were using standard lights. And we had 2 or 3 of them and we're setting up. And I'm getting into position and we figured out what the shot was going to be and Graham was ready to go. And he turned on one light and then he turned on the other light and suddenly the bulb in the light blew. And I was like, oh shit. But I knew that he carried extra bulbs with him, so that wasn't a problem. But then I noticed the other light suddenly was off. And the lights in the conference room were off. And the lights outside the hall were off. We blew the power to his office. Completely blew the power to Richard Rubenstein's office. And I'm sitting there going, okay. Couldn't believe I got this interview with him anyway. And he's not the chummiest guy in the world, but he's polite, businesslike, okay, all right. So we just blew the power to Richard Rubenstein's whole office. Okay. Thank God the windows to that conference room did not open, because I would have gone headfirst out that window at that point, because I was just like, nope, I'm done. I would have been gone. Fortunately, no one was really that upset, because as it turns out, this happened all the time. Apparently the wiring was really shitty in that building, and their power went out weekly, like a couple times a week, because someone plugged in a coffee maker or something like that. So they really weren't upset. They managed to get the power reset. And then Graham ended up using extension cords and wiring the damn lights to like 3 different circuits all around the office to make sure we didn't overload anything again. But I just remember when the lights blew and I realized that the whole office had gone out, I was just like, oh, Richard's going to come in here and just beat us to death. But he didn't. He was actually very cordial, although it was interesting. He came in with all his answers already prepared. He kind of rehearsed the speech. He said, I'm just going to sit down and talk for 15 minutes and then we'll be done. And that's literally what he did. He came in, blah, 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 and was done. And then at the end, it was like a Senate Judiciary meeting or something. I just kind of leaned in and went, may I ask a couple of follow-up questions? And he went, yes, you may. Okay. And then I was able to ask a couple other things. But it was very, very to the point, very businesslike. But he was actually very cool to deal with. I don't have any bad memories of him. And I'm trying to think if there was anybody else that really surprised me in terms of their personality. I will say, also related to Dawn of the Dead, or to George Romero's work, when I was setting up to do the commentary for Dawn of the Dead, ironically, at a hotel directly across from where Richard Rubenstein's office was, we were in a conference room, and I'm there, and Armin Petrie was my sound recordist there. We're all set up, and we had set it up to have all 4 cast members in that room. This was a big thing to me. It was like my white whale. That I wanted a commentary with the 4 main cast members of Dawn of the Dead. And we'd flown Scott, and I think we had flown in Ken. David lived in New York at the time, and Galen Ross lived in New York. So everyone shows up, except Galen hasn't gotten there yet. And I knew the other 3 already. I had never met Galen, and we had worked it out. But I wasn't sure what her attitude was going to be. Because she had never really done, at that point, she had never done a convention. She had never really done any interviews about Dawn of the Dead whatsoever. And she was an acclaimed documentarian and film producer at that point. And I was like, I don't know, is she going to be kind of standoffish? Is she going to be... She walks in there like she was the life of the fucking party. I mean, she lit up and she ended up being more engaging than everybody else at first, and I think everybody else was kind of thrown by this, like, oh my god, Galen's really into this. So that surprised me. That really did surprise me. Because again, but that was more based on I just didn't know what to expect. Not that I'd heard anything necessarily bad about her, but it's the unknown sometimes it's the unknown quantity that's the worst thing, because you really don't know what to prepare for. But I also try not to prejudge a situation. If I've heard that this person's difficult or someone I know has had a problem with this person, I don't want to bring that into the initial meeting, because that's really not fair. I will say I've had the reverse, where someone I heard was good or I had no reason to believe was bad turned out to be a raging fucking asshole. I've had that happen. I've talked a couple times about those experiences, but those have been relatively few and far between. And with the exception of one person, I can't think of anybody that I've interviewed that I wouldn't interview again. I know John Carpenter gets a lot of crap thrown at him, but he's always given me very good interviews. He can be a cranky old grandpa, no question about it. If he were here right now, I'd say that to his face. But when the camera comes on, he gives the goods, and that's all and that's fine. So I don't have a problem with him at all. But there was just one guy that I initially things were fine, and then he turned into a giant unwashed asshole. And I will never interview this person again under any circumstances. I would, if there was another project that involved him, I would not do that project. That's how bad it was. But yeah, I'm sure there are other cases of people that I was surprised by, but they're just not coming to mind right now. But those are the things that kind of came to mind because of that question. But that's a good question. That's a really good question. Oh, Pierre David. Yeah, Pierre's done a couple of interviews for me. I like Pierre a lot. I like Pierre quite a bit. Never met Chevy. Had never had a reason. I've never worked on any Chevy Chase movie, so I've never had any reason to meet Chevy Chase. I will say this: a lot of people give Corey Feldman a lot of shit, and well, we could have a discussion about that. In terms of his interviews, that guy gives fantastic fucking interviews. Absolutely fantastic fucking interviews. So, and I've never had to be in the room with him personally to do it. He's always in LA or something, so we do it out there. But man, he gives the best interviews and I've interviewed him like 3 times now. And so, I can't say anything about him personally because I don't know him. But in terms of, again, delivering what we need to on camera, oh, his Bordello of Blood interview was so good. But everybody's from that one was so good because everyone felt completely comfortable saying, yeah, this production sucked, and here's why. Even though I like that movie. But yeah. 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 Oh yeah, Pierre's interviews were all in his office. I think I did like 3 or 4 different interviews with him, and he sits in the exact same spot in his office every time. So it looks like we just filmed one giant interview with him, and I've just been parceling it out over the last 7 or 8 years. But no, they were all different sessions. But yeah, no, but I'm trying to think of anybody else. The ones that always stick with me are the ones where people are just instantly great to hang out with. Like I had the privilege of interviewing William Ragsdale myself in person for Fright Night 2. And he could not have been more accommodating and friendly and outgoing, and just gave a terrific interview. I mean, he was just awesome. And when you have experiences like that, it kind of makes you push aside any of the negative ones or the somewhat negative ones and kind of let those go, because those are worth their weight in gold. But he was wonderful. He came in with just a great, and he was getting ready to go on like an extended vacation with his family, and he made time to do the interview that morning. And he came in, but he was just great. Again, Bryan Cranston could not have been nicer, and he made time for something that most people would have forgotten he even did. Bruce Campbell has always been a wonderful guy to me. He's always made time for me over the years, and I've always appreciated that. And he gives the best interviews on the planet because he knows exactly how to say it. I mean, God, again, the number of good experiences I've had so far outweigh the bad that it's like 98% to 2. It really is. Because even the interviews that are just good or just professional, like the guy comes in, sits down, thank you very much, goodbye. Those are great too. I don't need to be a pal with the person at the end of the interview. But some people it's a job. This is it. They come in, do their thing, and that's all. But I don't have any problem with that. I don't need to be chummy or best friends with the guy or the girl before the thing's over, you know. So it's yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I don't yeah, I don't yeah, oh yeah, the I didn't do much for Wishmaster 3 and 4. Um I concentrated really on the first movie and then on the second one as well. But the other two I didn't do anything new for those. I didn't have the money or the budget or the time for that. And to be fair, Wishmaster 3 and 4 are not held up in the same regard as the first movie or even the second film. So, and they already had some extras on there, I think. So there wasn't a need to really do more of that. Joseph is asking a good question here. Have I ever thought about doing a documentary on a video company like Vestron, Prism Media, or Paragon? Yes. I thought about doing a Vestron one for many years. And it's a huge regret of mine. I blame myself for never reaching out to the man who founded Vestron. Austin, I think his name was Austin First, I think was his name. Because he was still around and he'd left the business but was still around. And I thought that would be an interesting story because he started off, kind of in the early days of the video industry. He was there from the birth of it and how it became a theatrical company and then how it folded up and all that. And it was always in the back, I should reach out to him. I should reach out to him. At least bank an interview with him and figure out what to do with it later. And I never did. And he just passed away recently. And I'll be kicking myself forever on that one. Because it's like, why didn't I just do it? Why didn't I just reach out? So, but yeah, that's about the only one I've ever really thought about doing a documentary on. And now it feels kind of like the opportunity has passed, unfortunately. All right, guys, listen, I'm going to wrap things up here. I want to thank you all for coming in and spending some time with me tonight. I appreciate it. If you guys have any other additional questions or anything you want to talk to me about, you can reach me on Facebook. Don't try me on Instagram. I don't really check that very often. And I only kind of halfway have a page there. So if you want to contact me, Facebook or through my website, it's always the best way. Always appreciate it. And thank you so much for asking some really nice questions tonight. Not all Purple People Eater and King Frat questions, although in my own way, I appreciate those too. So thank you very much. And if you're willing to give Hunter's Blood a chance, please do. And look for an announcement on Angel of Heat soon. And keep watching for more news on Fright Night 2 in the near future as well. Thank you guys very much. And I am going to hang up. If I time this out, it should go right now, I